What happens when legacy isn't something you inherit? It's something you are.
For me, it was like, how can I ever, not have the energy to do something or not want to try something and push a new idea? Like, I can't, that's ridiculous for me to do that, right? So
Today's guest grew up inside greatness. But this conversation goes way deeper than the resume. We're talking about serving the song over the ego.
I think the way to move around is you have to just serve the song. It's never really about us.
Part of this podcast, I want to create this space that's safe for artists to come and talk, because as artists, we think differently.
The work ethic he learned watching legends who never stopped. AI versus artistry. Inventing an instrument out of pure necessity. And the woman who wanted to play the drums and gave that dream to her son instead. This one is for every creative who's ever felt the pull to do it all.
I actually have something I need for you all to do. In order for me to continue to be able to do this, I need you to do something that's totally free. I need you to subscribe to the podcast. I need you to like, and I would love for you all to continue the discussion in the comments. Welcome to Artists Manifesto podcast. I'm your host and singer-songwriter, Brittneye. You all may know me from the hit song, Let Me Love You. And here with me today, I am so excited to share you with the manifestors. Some people are born into music, but every now and then there comes someone along who was built for it. Bone deep, bloodline deep. My next guest is the son of a Supreme. His mother, Lynda Laurence, sang on the Motown stage where legends were made. His father, Trevor Lawrence Jr., was a saxophonist, a producer, and writer. Both of his parents stood beside Stevie Wonder as original members of the Wonder Love Band, the same band that gave the world songs in the key of life. His grandfather, Ira Tucker Sr., is a Grammy-winning forefather of gospel music. His aunt sang with Patti LaBelle. Music wasn't just in his house, it was his house. He picked up the drumsticks at 2 years old and never put them down. By high school, he was already in the studio. His credits read like a playlist of the greatest artists alive. I'm talking Bruno Mars, Kendrick Lamar, Dr. Dre, Eminem, Alicia Keys, Ed Sheeran, Snoop Dogg, and Stevie Wonder himself. He performed on the world's largest stage at the 2022 Super Bowl halftime show. He even invented an instrument. They call him Trev Beats. I call him a living testament to what it means to carry a legacy and then expand it. Welcome to the Artists Manifesto podcast, Trevor Lawrence Jr.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. Thank you for that incredible introduction. And I'm terrible because I didn't do my homework. Let Me Love You that's one. So congratulations.
Thank you. We have to speak things into existence. Yeah. You have to believe. Yeah. I'm so excited to have you here. I really want to talk. We're going to talk legacy. We're going to start there. And then we're going to kind of get into where we are now in music. So you were born into a household where Stevie Wonder, Motown, gospel royalty, those were just names on a record to some of us. But for you, these people were at the dinner table. At what point did you realize that what you grew up in wasn't quite the norm?
Well, my parents divorced I was a young age when they divorced, but I guess, the whole time I kind of knew it was something going on. I mean, it wasn't, this exuberant lifestyle or anything like that. I mean, we were doing well, and my dad was a real successful producer and all that kind of stuff. So just the way the ages were, I was kind of young when Ringo Starr and all them were coming to our house for dinner. Like, I wasn't hip. I didn't know. I was going to go play at Harry Nilsson's house. I didn't know the significance of that. So, but it's just like our generation now, and I see with my kids, it's par for the course. It's just kind of what happens when you're in the mix. So, I knew that music was the thing for me, and pretty much the whole time. I mean, that 2-year-old analogy you told is real, and it was like they got me a set of practice pads because they didn't want it to be all loud at first. And I was in it. I was in it from the beginning. It never wavered. I think now in my life is the first time I've ever even pivoted from music, and it's still music adjacent. With my developing and my content creation, but I've known the whole time, and it's all I've ever wanted to do, and I really am blessed because I hit most of my bucket lists now in life, so, and musically, so I don't have any regrets,
That is incredible. So many people are at a point in their life where they haven't even created the bucket list. They're in survival mode. So what a blessing that you're like, check. Now we just have to create a new list, Trevor. We got to get you, add a couple of more check boxes to the list.
Yeah.
If you were not doing music, right? What else is there for you? Any wonder or something you would like to explore that's not music adjacent?
Yeah, I mean, I could have been a chef. I went to cooking school, and I actually shot a pilot years ago where the name Trev Beats came from. I don't think I've ever told this story. The name Trev Beats came from one of my partners, Derek Carolina. Shout out to Derek. And we had a show called The Trev Beats Show, and it was actually, our first guest was Cedric the Entertainer. And Joe Torre was the co-host with me, and we shot a pilot. And I was fresh out of cooking school, and it was like mixing cooking and music. And at that time, hip hop and cooking and it was still nowhere near how pretty much normalized it is now. And we shot that pilot, and then let's just say some other chef that looks a lot like LL Cool J stole our whole concept, and then we didn't get our show. So, that's what happened with that. But that's where Trev Beats came from. Yeah. So, and if I didn't do cooking, I'd probably be a firearms instructor, because I'm actually a licensed firearm instructor and chief range safety officer. So I'd probably be working in the 2A field, especially helping our people, get some education in that world as well, if I wasn't doing music.
Now, I kid you not, I was just thinking the other day, like, man, I think me and my family need to strap up. It's a crazy world it's getting real serious right now. We have a set of twin girls. They're 5 years old. And so I'm hesitant because, it's still, safety. You want to be safety first. So that's incredible that you even said that. We're going to talk about this afterwards. All right. So still on legacy. I know you were surrounded by greatness, especially like Stevie Wonder. What's one lesson that didn't come from anything that they taught you, verbalized to you? What came from actually watching these legends be legends?
Well, you know what? Being able to be close to the people in all these different instances in my life. When I say the people, I mean the people, right? So I never played in a cover band. I just played with the artists that I always wanted to play with. And it's like all of them have one thing in common, is that they work harder than most people that aren't in their position, especially in the entertainment world. So it seems like one thing when you see entourages and all these people, and they have all these people, still, Stevie is constantly working, Dre constantly working. And, these people could have stopped working 40 years ago, 50 years ago, Herbie Hancock in his 80s, still touring, killing. Like, these people are super. Bruce Springsteen, killing, still touring. It's like these people are super. Even look, Paul McCartney. I mean, so many, for the Rolling Stones, so many from that generation are still out there doing it. So for me, it was like, how can I ever, not have the energy to do something or not want to try something and push a new idea? Like, I can't, that's ridiculous for me to do that, right? So I learned from them just to the work ethic part, you know what I mean? To keep working. That's why I have my hands in so many different things. because I just believe in staying busy.
Yeah. What do you think drives that ambition? Is it just the love of the music, the love of creating? I've said this on my podcast before. It's like, if I'm not creating, I feel like I'm dying. Like, I have to write. I have to have that creative outlet. It's like it just comes from above and then it flows through me. And I feel like if I'm not doing that, I'm not fulfilling my purpose. Do you see that in those artists as well?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, some people, we just lost a great jazz icon named Sonny Rollins. And it's like, he was 95 years old and was playing, you know what I'm saying? And I don't know, we lost another one a couple years ago, Benny Golson, who also, is family to me. And he stopped, he had to stop playing. And I kind of knew that when I found out he stopped playing, that was going to be, it was going to be tough, because that's such a part of these people. All of us creatives, you know what I mean? So even though I've spent more time away from the drums the last, say, 10 months than I have in my entire life, I still, when I sit down, it's like, okay, there's still this weird feeling that happens. But, I'm doing my 10,000 hours in another area. And so I realized that, and you have to start from the beginning and, and put the time in. So that's what I've been doing with the content creation and the developing. But, of course I still make records and still write songs and everything. But it's like, life is interesting. And I think anything that we do, it's okay to kind of just take a breather and not let it inundate you, because sometimes when you come back from that, it's actually stronger. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like, you have to go out and live life so you can write or do whatever you do and refresh yourself. That actually does make a lot of sense to me. So you said 10 months is the longest that you've spent away, or not so much drumming as much as you usually do. So what you been up to?
I decided to reluctantly, but by the way, my wife was on me for years, and I was like, oh, I don't want to do that. I'm a musician and da-da-da-da. And then I started seeing, the climate shift. And I know that I have a lot of information. I just was giving it in different ways, like, master classes and drum clinics and, teaching at universities, doing master classes at university. So I was giving the information, but, things started shifting. And then I was like, okay, it's, interesting. So during the course of last year, towards the end of the year, like the last quarter, I stumbled across the last barrier for me, which was the tech part, because I didn't want to have to do it relying on other people at all. I wanted to be able to get the show from idea to finished product 100%, so I can control the schedules and things, because I knew, I didn't want to ever have to be beholden. So I had to do a learning, I had to learn some stuff, and I stumbled across Ecamm, which is now a brand partner of mine. But at that point, I thought that was one of the easiest ways I could get that done. Then I said, okay, I don't really have time to go crazy and learn Final Cut Pro. So I got CapCut, and so those two things were cool. And then at the same token, I'm very in tune with AI, which I'm sure we'll talk about later. So I started seeing how that could help. So I started implementing all that into the workflow. And somewhere along the line, I got bit by the vibe coding bug, and it took me on exactly the same sensation as all those years making beats, before you get a placement, and you're just like every day making beats, like, yeah, this is for so-and-so, this is for so-and-so. It hit me like that, and I was like, uh-oh, wait a second. So I did, a couple at first, to help people out with AI and help people out with prompting, because some people, didn't understand.
It's all in the prompting.
And that, yeah, you know what I'm saying? So that turned into what now is, I believe, 17 on the Apple App Store, I think, at this stage right now. Something like that, 16, 17. And, it's interesting. They all serve a purpose, and I love the creative process, and it's a form of creativity to me. So that's kind of what I've been doing. I mean, I went on tour for a month back in like March, and I still do sessions and all that. But it's just not like it used to be. Like I haven't even been I've really been trying to do this because my show's weekly. So it's a lot of work, as you know. So we're, 30 shows in, that's a lot of work, especially trying to edit while I'm on tour. That was
wait a minute. You do your own editing, Trevor?
Yeah, I do everything. So I shoot the show, edit the show, do all the promos, do all the social media, everything. My wife does admin on the business side, analytics, all that kind of website she maintains and all that. But I do everything else. So I would get off we finish a show probably off stage like 10:30. So thankfully our bus had the Elon Musk thing. What do you call that? The
Starlink.
Starlink, yeah. Thankfully, because it was great. So shout out to Starlink. Great
right, I can imagine.
Moving tour bus, right? So I was able to get it done, so I got my schedule where it was like we get off stage 10:30, I'm to the bus, probably coding and editing till, because I was coding other apps and editing the show, stupid. And, as long as I get to sleep by 3, I can sleep till 10.
Okay, you getting in your 7 to 8 hours, 3 a.m. That, it's crazy. Do you find that it's easier to create at night than it is through the day, or am I just weird?
You know what? Yeah, I don't, I live that life. I live the extreme rap era life, and it's like, it's cool, but, so towards my last years of Aftermath, everybody started getting it started being a little more day work, not so much all night.
And get the circadian rhythm together. Okay.
Because there was a lot of that, a lot of that sunrise, and that's like, does it really make the music better?
Do we have to do this? But it's so...
I mean, where did that start?
I don't know.
Did that start from artists being on cocaine? Like, where did that really start?
Maybe.
You know what I'm saying?
Maybe. I think you just cracked the code, pun intended. Oh my gosh. I think because of my lifestyle with the kids, being a wife and working and podcasting and being an artist, I just find like when everyone's asleep, I'm like, okay, now it's time to write. It's time to do. That's my creative time. And then I'll look up and it's like 4 a.m. and I'm like, yeah, I don't know. That might not have been the best. That might not have been the best choice. But hey, we got to get things done. All right. So now I know you've described your mission as blurring the line between drumming and the feel of the vintage drum machine. What does it mean to you when a listener can't tell where the human ends and the machine begins? Is that the goal, or does that thought ever unsettle you?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what the music is. There's some music where, and some records where the whole goal was to match the drum machine as much as possible. Sometimes I'm tracking to a drum machine and really dialing in the sound so that they can later take the drum machine out. It just depends on what the record is. Some is very, obviously the drum loop is something completely different than I'm going to play. That's a big part of the song. There's a song I did years ago. I think it's on the first Leon La Havas album.
I gotta find it and plug it in so people can hear it.
I resisted the charms of evil's arms as she stood by my bedside, speaking in tongues, and the lovers who cried won't be denied as they fight for their right to grow. Please don't turn us down, don't turn us down.
They really made the drum sound like some kind of loop, shout out to my boy Mark Batson, but that was just me playing, And I was trying to play it in that kind of energy, but it was live drums, but it like sonically sounded like a break beat or something, you know?
Depends on what it calls for. Now, a lot of people, you know, if you're not a creative or a musician, and I've noticed like people in my audience, we have both artists, we have, you know, musicians, and then we have people that just love art in all kinds of forms. So they don't they don't understand like that process. So I'm glad that you kind of give them a peek into it. Sometimes it's not about what you're trying to create, it's the energy that the song actually calls for. So I'm happy you spoke to that, because that really is a part of it. Okay, up next. So you started as a jazz drummer, is that correct?
Sure, true, yeah.
All right.
That's the foundation.
That's the foundation. Okay, so I got to tell you this, just a little segue. This past week, I have gotten really into Coltrane. Like, on every drive, anytime I'm alone, I came across a TikTok that said that jazz music is Black meditation music. And I couldn't get that thought out of my head. So I was like, okay, let me get into jazz. And so, you know, I came across Coltrane. I was like, oh, this is where I live now. This is my new obsession. So I think that's amazing that, you know, you started off there. What do you think? Why is jazz the foundation?
Well, it's our true American art form, for one. Our people definitely, you know, are the forefathers. And it is definitely by far the highest aptitude music that there is. You know, people want to talk about the complexity of classical music. And although that is true, you have to also understand, you know, if you walk into the SATs and you have all the answers, it's not going to be as hard. So jazz, you know, classical, you have it all in front of you. So, of course, that's your interpretation, but it's pretty much giving you the answer. Jazz is walking to the SATs blind. You see what I'm saying? And the questions are changing every second. So that's the difference, you know. So the aptitude is, you know, the conversation that happens and that could happen and that you know, should happen is something it's just hard to really put into words until you do it. You know, learning the repertoire is one thing, learning the information and the history that you need to learn, but then the, you know, ability to create in the moment is what sets jazz people away. Because see, the difference also is, and I'm not bashing classical music, I think it's amazing, but you know, I play it right now. I mean, I'm playing a gig that's with an orchestra. I think it's great, but the difference is, you take 5 jazz musicians and 5 string quartet players, you take the string quartet players' music away and the music is off. Jazz, they're going to keep playing like, oh, okay, cool, we'll just make something up and we'll go for it. You know, so it's just a different thought process, you know what I mean? And just to speak to your jazz conversation that you just said, your comment, I think it is meditation music. You know, some of it is in some of the form. You know, if you're talking about Train, it spans a lot, where I would say, yeah, Love Supreme is definitely meditation music. But Giant Steps definitely is not. You know what I'm saying?
Look, I'm not going to pretend to be somebody I'm not. I'm not an expert. I'm just like, oh, okay, let me get into it. Like, I needed a foundation to just kind of ground myself and ground my energy, and it did help. Okay, so who should we listen to if we're trying to meditate?
Oh, you got it. Oh yeah, you got to, you know, Train is definitely one. There's a lot of Miles, you know, in different periods, you know, before the electric period that I call, like in the 80s and the Tutu era. But even when he redid Human Nature, that's a great version of that. But, you know, Miles through the years, you know, earlier, you know, some of the great ballads there's a lot of great ballads on the big band side with Count Basie, you know, Duke Ellington. And modern day, you know, you got my homies like Robert Glasper or Terrace Martin, and they make a lot of crazy, like hard and soulful, but they make a lot of great meditation. Robert especially has a lot of records that I call, you know, female friendly, and, you know, still high aptitude though. He's figured out how to crack that code with high aptitude, but still approachable. You know what I mean? So I think, you know, and then you got Kamasi, who has a lot of stuff that's great for meditation, like spiritually. Like a lot of his music is very spiritual, you know, in nature. So, you know, there's a lot out there, and all I would implore you to do is, you know, don't get sucked into the monolithic view of it. It's very vast, you know what I'm saying? And smooth jazz, I don't really consider jazz. I consider it instrumental R&B. So that's me as a jazz purist, kind of weird. I know some people don't like it, you know, and I played plenty of smooth jazz records. Shout out to Huge Groove. But it's like, I look at that in that's closer to me than to R&B than it is to jazz, in my opinion. You know what I mean?
That makes a lot of sense. Of course, just doing my research and everything. You've been in the R&B world, hip hop, pop. Like, how do you create? We were talking about energy earlier. Your palette is so wide. How do you ensure you still show up, but also give the artist what they crave and what they need?
Well, it becomes this thing that I preach, which is serve the song. It's not about me ever. So the number one thing is there is no Trevor. You know what I'm saying? Trevor's here to serve. You know what I'm saying? So that's what the vibe is. When it's my own record, then I make my own decisions. But when it's not, you know, if it's a session, I was talking to another session musician today, and, you know, a similar thing. It's like we get a cold call from someone sometimes that we may have never worked with. We send way too much gear there, but that's only because of the possibilities we want to be covered. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, guitar players are known for doing that. Drummers, I might send, you know, 3 or 4 cases of snare drum, 20, 30 snare drums, and people, how do you need so much? And well, I don't know what the heck we about to do. You know, it's like, I don't want to be sitting here and not giving the music 100%. So I think the way to move around is you have to just serve the song. It's never really about us, you know. And as far as the genre thing, the reason that I do that is because it's a form of activism, because there's a box somewhere that says you shouldn't be doing this. Stay over here in hip hop, stay over here in gospel, stay over here in jazz. And I'm like, okay, no. So now we're going to go to every genre and hit a benchmark with those people that are regarded in that genre. So it's not a flash in the pan, fly by night, dip your toes in. We're going to go LeAnn Rimes, but then we're going to go Herbie, and then we're going to go Dre, and we're going to go, and then we're going to go Steve. We're going to go with the people in Lauren Daigle. We're going to go with the people in these different areas. So when my legacy is done, it will be known it wasn't a fluke and it wasn't a joke.
Yes. So many lessons for all of us in that. I just want to kind of sit in that just for a moment. I mean, the fact that, one, I believe in servanthood as well, like being of service. I find, just personally for me, part of this podcast, I want to create this space that's safe for artists to come and talk, because as artists, we think differently. Our brains work differently than most people. Only 8% of people in the world are actually like creatively inclined. And so I want to create this space where we can come and talk. I want artists to be able to share their art, and then also share how they think, their philosophy, how they think on current events. And so the part about being of service, that's what I'm building with this platform, being of service, and hopefully those who are just starting off can come, and those who are legends such as yourself can also come, and it's a place to commune together. And so just kind of thinking of how you've been in service, what was a moment, one that really stands out to you, where you felt like everyone in the room was on that same vibe and created something special? And then just tell us what that creation was.
Oh, yeah. There was so many of those stories. I mean, geez. Oh, all through the Relapse album with Eminem. We were in Detroit. It was like freezing, but there was just days that it was just on, you know what I'm saying? And he was on, you know, the tracks were on, and it was just like, it was just some moments. Even, you know, making the Compton album, same thing, just these moments where it's just on, you know, just like certain times you play, you know, on stage, even though, it's the same show and the same group and all that, of course, every night's not going to be the same. So during my 14 years, off and on with Herbie Hancock, there was just some times where it was just like locked in, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, you just feel it and everybody feels it. And it's just this thing that happens. Usually like 2-3 weeks into a tour, it starts really gelling. And it's just same thing like when writing. You're writing with somebody for long periods of time. These instincts start getting picked up and it just becomes, it becomes a real, the symmetry becomes really palpable. So those are some of the great times I've had. I mean, specifically, let me think of a song. Oh, so I'll tell you a song that came out of a conversation. There's like a phrase that I picked up from a friend of mine, another producer, and it stuck with me the whole time. So if I was like, say I'd do a track or something, and I come back in the control room, and instead of telling the engineer to lay it back, I would just say, man, go put a perm on the snare drum. So that conversation in a certain session ended up being a conversation in the, outside while we're sitting down taking a break. And it was just, funny, and we started clowning about it and whatever. And then a song called Perm was written. And that was Bruno Mars. So, yeah.
Oh my God.
Now look at you walking in here looking all pretty and angry and mean and good. I know you didn't get your hair done so you could just sit down and just sit still.
Hey, we trying to have a good time tonight. Let's go, baby. Let's go, baby. It's my birthday. No, it's not. But I still look good, though.
So that was one of the ones that was super cold. And he called me, it was a long period between that part of the record process and the record being done. He called me, he's like, yo, we got one, Trev. And I was like, what you talking about, bro? And he played it for me. I was like, yo, that's wild.
Isn't that crazy? How just something your brain latches onto it, and then later like something happens from that. I think that's so incredible. Like still, like that blows me away. I do. I do. For me, Trevor, it happens in the shower. Yeah. It's always with water. With me, like something a melody or a lyric or whatever will just hit me, and I can't get out of my head. And then that's when I start to write. Yeah. So no, I think that's hilarious. I think that's so cool. Speaking of you and like the way you create is so expansive. So of course, when I was doing my research, I came across the instrument you created. I want you to tell the manifestors about your pairing and partnering with Istanbul to create this beautiful instrument.
Okay, well, first shout out to my partners and my great cymbal company, Istanbul Agap. I'm always having ideas, and I was at a cymbal company before, and I had a signature ride cymbal with them, and we did good business, and it was selling and all that. Royalties were great, and I was, I did like maybe 2005. I was playing drums with Jennifer Lopez, and I'll never forget. The electronic stuff was coming on, it was just kind of really starting to be a thing, and people having laptops was just starting to be a thing, using it for sounds and stuff. And I remember we were rehearsing at Center Staging, and obviously that's a controlled environment. So, I had this big refrigerator rack behind me with all these, electronic drum modules, and I had all this pads and stuff for, a snap or a clap and all this stuff. And so while we're rehearsing, it's fine because that's a controlled environment. But as soon as we got to the show, when they had the front of house and the speakers, the vibrations were making it, we'd be in the middle of a ballad and you're hearing this because of the vibration. And I'm like, yo, this is crazy. There has to be a way to get a clap sound from an acoustic, in an acoustic way, because the frequency spectrum is so close to hi-hats and cymbals. It has to be a way. So I set out to do that. It took me some time. I started collecting. I found these little discs, these little kind of weird tinny cymbal things at some random shop, and I started stacking them, and I was like, okay, that's getting closer. And there's evidence of that on a record called Go Ahead by Alicia Keys. So you can hear, that was the first instance of me documenting that idea. In the middle, it's like a big "We Will Rock You" section. So that was the concept.
Everybody say no, 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 no. Used to believe in every word you said.
You know, it didn't, that was a lot of aid, you know, by, shout out to Am and Sally, one of the great engineers. She did a lot to make it sound like that, but that was the concept. So then, you know, there's probably like this is probably like a 7-8 year gap, you know, and I took it to a few companies. They said no. Even that same cymbal company was like, nah, they didn't get it. And so when I left and went to Istanbul, the first thing I told my guy, Scott, was, hey, bro, I got this idea. You know, I'd love to try to flesh it out. So him and his brilliance, we got to it. And, you know, R&D probably a year, maybe 2 years, maybe even 3, you know, definitely at least 2. And finally, we got it. And, you know, it came out in 2017, and it has created a whole new genre of cymbal, and it's called the clap stack. They've all tried to copy it, and they have their own versions. That's how the cymbal world is. We understand that, but it'll never be the original, and it doesn't sound as good. But the point is, it started a whole new genre. And if you go to Google now, for forever, you know, it'll say created by Trevor Lawrence with Istanbul Agop. So to me, it's something I was blessed to leave the very thing that, you know, started me in the first place. You know, I was able to leave something behind for drums. So, you know, and it's still real. The business is real. The royalties have really never died off. It's almost 10 years. So thank everybody that's ever gotten one around the world. We appreciate you, and thank you for the support. And, you know, it's been one of those things that's like having a nice single that just always does a certain amount of numbers, or a nice sync, you know?
I mean, that's how you know when you've made something, it's going to outlive you, you know? That's just incredible. Because when I was doing my research and seeing, I was like, he's created his own instrument. Oh my God, this is amazing. But it's cool to hear the story behind it as well. Because I feel like, you know, being kind of like an architect or an engineer, a lot of time it does come from a need, like, you know, a necessity, and then you create something that's so impactful. Speaking of necessities, a lot of people are wondering if AI in music, whether or not that's a necessity. And I know you've built an AI tool specifically for musicians, and, you know, you've had a plethora of conversations about it on the Trev Beats show. So if you're not following, not subscribed, you need to hurry up and subscribe to the Trev Beats show. But where do you personally draw the line between AI as a tool and AI as a threat?
Right. I never will look at it as a threat, for one, but that's just me personally, because, you know, I see the limitations. No, it's okay. I see the limitations. I think a lot of people do. I think a lot of people are intimidated. Now, let me back this up by saying that to mark the time, I released a full AI album 2.5 years ago. So, you know, before the conversation was here, because I saw where it was going. So I did something to make sure I had a timestamp, because I really saw this is where it's going. And then I did another one earlier this year to show where that quality and that advancement has come within 2.5 years. You know, that came out in January, called Tech Support. The first one's called The Producer. So, you know, I think the issue I have is when people try to sound like another artist on purpose and plagiarize an artist's sound. That I'm not into that. And I'm also not into 100% prompting music at all. I believe that platforms like Suno allow you to upload, and when you upload something you've created and then you enhance it, I look at that totally different than 100% roulette, leaving it up to the machine. And, you know, the issue of the scraping and the training that everyone is talking about, it's a huge moral issue. Now, I have a, you know, decent catalog, so I'm sure some of my music's in there too. It just doesn't make me feel that same way as it does when somebody's trying to take an artist's sound and sound like an artist. Because, and let me say why, I don't see a difference between You got some stems that you generate on AI, and you pull some stems from Splice. To me, is both things that you didn't write that you are utilizing to create new medium. And I don't see why it's such a moral catastrophe when we're talking about
we do
AI,
sample.
but no one has a problem with the Apple loop.
We do be
Splice
sampling.
loop.
Trev, we be sampling. We do.
So it's like it's a weird thing, and I don't look at it as a threat. I look at it as not to be cliche, because everybody says this now. I look at it as a tool, but the reality is, it's the use case. I think that's the most important thing. Is how are you going to use it? I use it, for the technical side and non-music. It's incredible, to help you scale, to help you do multiple things that you would need teams of people to do. Unbelievable, and a lot of people, let's not forget, a lot of people are still not going to just take the learning curve and learn it. So it's not automatic. You still have to learn something to even be able to use it, efficiently. So, I don't like the environmental, part of it. But then again, it's like, if we're going to open that can up, I mean, we're talking about, we got gas and oil and diesel and all these other things. Like, it's just interesting that suddenly this is such a moral thing, but every other facet, people have no problem. It's wild. You know what I'm saying?
Well, it's like, I think I heard, and I think that's kind of the point. I think people are like, wait a minute. This is our Earth. We can still have AI. I was actually doing just a little research. If you can't tell, I love going down a good wormhole. And they were actually saying, like, the heat dissipation and all the clean water that is used for these machines, that literally they can be made better and more efficiently. There's technology that already exists. It's just that these large corporations don't want to spend the money. And that's really the issue. So, to me, I'm glad you even opened up that conversation, because you're right. We can have technology, but we can be clean. We can have clean technology. And that really is the conversation that we need to be having. And to your point, we need all energy and anything that we do as humans on Earth to be as clean and efficient as possible. We all got to live on this Earth. I need some clean water, Trev. I need that. I need food.
Yeah.
We got to take care of the bees, all this stuff. So it's actually a great conversation to have. But to loop back around, I didn't think about AI and sampling, I didn't think about it in the same.
The energy.
It kind of, You almost won me over. I'm not sure you quite won me over all the way, because it's like, here's the thing. Like, I don't want AI to put people out of their jobs. I want AI to just make us even more powerful as far as our output and being creatives, help us to create more.
Well, let me just add this one thing. So let's talk about use case and reality. So before AI, we use Apple loops, we use samples, we use whatever, we put them into music, cool. Put it out, no problem, right? No problem. Umbrella, those drums are an Apple loop, right? So, okay. Now let's talk about using AI. AI, one of the great use cases is, use it as an inspirational tool to create parts, to create this, but then go get somebody to play it and interpret it that's a real person. So now you're actually employing and using real information and real performances more than that whole period when it stopped at the loop. So I think that it's just a weird thing, and I get it. It's more because people are insecure about it, and I understand that. I don't think it's going to replace live. I don't think it's going to replace.
No, it can't.
It can't. Being in the moment. Can it write a song? Sure. And let's also not fall for the smokescreen of the very companies that spend a lot of money behind the scenes to put out these influencers and these things to make this negative thing about AI. They're in lawsuits, and what happens with the lawsuits? They're holding it up so that they can get the money. And now look what we see. UMG and Spotify, all of a sudden, it's cool. Now you can mix our artist stems. Wait a second. I thought it was the end of music.
What happened?
What happened? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, so let's not fall for that either. You know what I'm saying? Let's Yeah, let's just use our own judgment and not get, psyoped, because it's not, listen.
People that don't have just kind of the access that you have, when you're being psyop, you don't know it until you're in it. But you're right. We got to critically think. We have to think critically about this.
And that's why you need the VET app, VET, verified, evaluated truth. That's exactly why I created that. Any picture, anything that comes across your feed.
Y'all go down. We all need to download that right now. Get it. Look.
Yeah.
Look, I'm telling you, because it is so much going on. All right, Trevor. We're almost towards the end, and there's something so special about your story. So, I'm a storyteller at heart, if you can't already tell that. And what I've learned is, behind every great artist, there's always a story that actually started even before them. A moment, a person, a sacrifice that really doesn't make the headlines, so to speak. There are women listening right now to this podcast that have their own dreams that they had to put on hold and pour that into someone else quietly without anyone ever knowing it. I think of your story and how it starts with one woman, one of those kinds of women. Tell me a little bit more about your mom and the story of the drums.
Oh, yeah. So my mom wanted to be a drummer, and, my grandparents were like, nope. So she said, okay, cool. She went on to be a singer, but she said, when I have a kid, I want him to play drums, and it worked. But I saw her, to keep me in LA, keep me around the ball game. I saw her, do a lot of things that were selfless, that she could have made decisions for herself, going to other countries at the time and doing this, and she didn't do it. A lot of sacrifice like that. So, I look at that and it's like, okay, you know what I mean? And I had, it even gave me more of a battery in my back to, try to do great things, because, she gave up opportunities for sure, that are tangible, that are very, that are real, and I appreciate that. And it's like, I don't know what it would have been had I been somewhere in Australia or wherever. Who knows what would have happened. So, my mom, and we're still super close, and she's just doing her thing. They're celebrating a milestone with her group, her version of the group, the formerly Supremes. And it's like, listen, it's incredible. You know what I'm saying? She's kept herself together. I've noticed that from her. She was on holistic since the 80s, way before it became a thing. And, she's like, a very special lady, and she's never wavered in how she's, been there for me and everybody. So, my mom is, she's a special person, and, we're just glad that she's with us and she's doing her thing and she's happy,
That's amazing. That it's like the want and the need for the drum was a calling for her, and that was just passed down through you, and then you as her son, like, you lived to become one of the best drummers alive. And that's to me, it's true. That's you laugh, but I'm serious. Look at your resume. I'm like, oh my gosh, But you I know she has to be.
Just means I'm old.
Hey, it's a blessing to get old. It is a blessing to get old. What's the other alternative? You know.
True story.
All right, Trevor. I'm going to wrap us up with a rapid fire game. Okay. So this is no second takes. Okay. No overthinking, no edits. First answer that comes to mind. The first round is this or that, legend style. So fast, no explanation. Just a name. Stevie Wonder. What's one great memory of Stevie Wonder?
Ghana.
Dr. Dre.
Super Bowl.
These chickens looking at me strange, but you know I don't care. Step up in this mother, just a swing in my hair. Trick, quit talking, quick walk if you down with the shit. Take a bullet with some and take this dope on this jet.
Kendrick Lamar.
Being in his For Free video.
Ed Sheeran.
Just being able to play on the record. Oh, no, sorry. We later got together and did what ended up being the James Corden show. The week before he started, John Mayer guest hosted. So myself and John Mayer and Ed and my good friend Mike Elizondo played on that show.
That's amazing. Okay, now pause on the game. What was it like at the Super Bowl? Every artist wants to play the Super Bowl. What was that like? You got to tell me before we go.
You know what? I had heard the stories, but I was so caught up in the whole thing, I kind of forgot that the actual show, everything's a pre-record, So, I mean, not when we did the show, but just I was so excited and all that. And it was like, it's cool. It's the greatest thing. And it's amazing. And that particular performance and what they did and the staging and Fatima,
it was legendary.
Just unbelievable. High excellence.
She's so good. Yeah, oh my God.
And I'm from LA and we won and it was at the new stadium. It's like Kobe, magic feeling.
So much.
So,
yes.
It was great. And shout out to Adam Blackstone. He's emerging as one of the best MDs. He's really taking that role and just scaled it to just another planet, and so, it was a great feeling, but it was also a great feeling of full circle moments. You know what I'm saying? Being from LA, working with original Death Row at times, and, just being around that whole thing, touring with Snoop in 2007. It was a culmination of so many things that it was just like, wow, you talk about full circle. You got it. You know what I'm saying?
It was. And look, I'm a Texan through and through, thorough blood. But here I am, me and my family, we are standing up so proud for y'all. It felt like a homecoming. Like it was just so amazing to witness it just in my living room. So I can't imagine what it was like for you. I know that.
You know what? I'm gonna tell you a funny story about that. As soon as it was over, this is a funny story. As soon as it was over, I dipped. I had to go to a watch party because I helped. I co-scored the first season of Bel Air with Terrace and Robert. So I went to a watch party, and my man that used to be on Saturday Night Live that does all the great impressions, I can't remember his name, but he was there, and he was doing his famous Jay-Z impression, and it was all cool, and it was like a hang. So I had to leave there and go home because I had a 5 a.m. Flight to Nashville. So this story's crazy. So I'm on my way through Nashville, and I go through the security, and I'm sitting at my gate at Coffee Bean, and I'm having my coffee, and I see the person walk up, and they're like, "Yo, are you Mr. Lawrence?" I was like, "Yeah." And they're like, "And we found him." I'm like, "Huh? The hell's going on?" So she's like, "Can you come with me, sir?" I was like, "Yeah, no problem." So I'm going. We walk in. Here come 2 people, then here come 2 more people, and then here come 2 suits. I'm like, man, what the hell is going on out here right now? I got a plane to catch. They're like, oh, we'll find out in a moment, sir. So we go back down to where the cameras and the monitor are, and they're like, can we see your bag? I was like, yeah, here you go. I already went through security, but here you go. And then basically what happened is I left a magazine in my bag from, the day before. And so, you know, most people, they would have been like, oh my goodness, life is over and da-da-da. But for me, it was like, okay, I did. I'm sorry about that. And they're like, well, you know, is there anything you want to tell us? I was like, yeah. And I showed them my CCW and they're like, oh, you want us to walk you to your car? Or you want to put it in your other bag? I was like, I'll put it in the other bag. You know what I'm saying? That's that, you know what I'm saying?
My God,
but,
it's crazy.
You know, that was an interesting 24 hours, like coming off the biggest stage and then almost losing my freaking flight privileges. Like,
oh my God,
crazy arc.
Insane. Oh my gosh. Well, Trevor, this has been amazing.
Thank you.
Just to have you on here. Yeah. Thank you so much for coming. Hopefully, you are welcome back anytime. You now have my contact information. And so at the end, we just like to bring it together and send the love out. And thank you again just for coming to Artists Manifesto podcast.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
And we'll see you next time.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yes.
Thicker than a snicker, thicker than a snicker. Cold peanut butter, yeah, you gonna need some liquor. Thicker than a snicker, thicker than a snicker. Cold peanut butter when I make that ass sugar, when I make that ass sugar, make that ass.